Shimmy Jimmy Wimmy, it's Hotline League episode 78. We got some very special guests with us tonight. We'll get to that in just a second. But first off, thank you so much to Alimer for sponsoring the episode. We're going to talk more about them as we get maybe about halfway into the show. We're a little late this week, which is unlike us. I apologize. I know you guys expect us to start sometimes even early. But this time it was just a little late. I'm joined, of course, by my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. Mark, how's it going?
I'm getting Discord sounds out of my monitor. So it's not going great.
Okay. Well, hopefully you can get that figured out.
I'm doing some last-minute fixes to this so I can get through this whole thing without my misphonia making me want to rip my ears out.
Fantastic.
Travis, I think you just died.
It pops back.
I see check giving a lot of Fs.
They do that every now and then. I don't believe it. They can hear us right now.
It's a really well-coordinated prank.
We also have our first guest, and he won't be here the whole night because Mark and him don't get along very well. But our first guest is Sherman from Riot. How's it going, Sherman?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. A returning guest. You've been on the show, what, a year ago?
Yep.
Okay. Well, welcome back. For those that don't know, do you want to explain what your role is at Riot?
Sure. So I've been at Riot for about 5 years. Always kind of headed up our college esports efforts. Everything from what does the season and championship look like to how do conferences get involved or why do schools build varsity programs, and kind of work with the rest of the team to help figure out the best way to go about that.
Awesome. And you guys just recently had an event take place, right?
Yeah, we just completed the college championship a week ago.
Awesome. How did it go?
It was great. It was our sixth one, and I think it was our most successful one in several years, from viewership, from just kind of everything that we set out to do. So we were really happy with it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mark, how's your technical stuff coming along?
I'm gonna die, but
okay.
That's it's not gonna get any better. So
okay. Well, hopefully this week we can get stuff resolved. Anyway, let's talk
Sherman,
about.
Did you watch opening week of LCS? Just curious.
Yeah. I was there for half of day one and watched from home all day one.
We can throw an LCS caller at you if we need to.
If you absolutely need to.
Yes.
Okay.
I want a detailed breakdown of what went wrong.
So, as I mentioned earlier, Sherman will be on the show for about the first 45 minutes of it, maybe down to a little bit less now. But we will then be joined by Commissioner Greeley from the LCS, who oversees all the stuff there. So we have both college and LCS on the show this evening, which is fantastic. So first off, Mark, how have you been though? What's been going on with you? What do you think of the first week?
I was, I don't know how to put it. Like, both happy and sad with it. Happy because I think we have a really fun meta. I think there's a lot of fun teams to watch. So I kind of enjoyed the weekend overall and thought, there's a lot to talk about in the games and things like that. So I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I don't know how much is different than spring. So I'm kind of like up in the air on if I'm really enjoying it or not. It's hard to say.
And you're just saying because it feels like the results look about the same from what we've seen.
Right. Like, yes, FlyQuest went 0-2, but they're against playoff teams, and maybe the drafts were a little weird or they were playing scared, but like skill-wise, it looked pretty confident. C9 looks great. TSM came out and laid a turd the first game and looked a little weak in the second, but like, do I really think TSM's going to drop? Like, maybe they go to fourth. Like, that would be the biggest upset I see. Team Liquid, from what I understand heading in, didn't really care. Still beat TSM and then dropped the game versus Echo Fox where they started great and then kind of just like, I think just assumed they were going to win and kind of IG'd themselves where they're like, we're the better team. We'll win from here and stop, really pressing hard. So I don't know. I think Echo Fox played great too. I don't want to take anything away from them. So yes, there were some upsets which I enjoyed seeing in a best of one sense, and like I said, like I thought all that was really cool, and I thought the game's play itself is fun, but I didn't see anything where I was like, wow, Cody's son really turned Clutch Gaming around, or like Amazing and Soligo look fantastic. Optics completely revitalized. Like none of that stuff felt that way.
Right. Sherman, did you have any thoughts on opening weekend? You said you were watching it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was pretty exciting. I was mostly just glad that it's back. I got really into the end of MSI and was really hyped on LCS finals in spring. Um, so I was just happy to have it back. I watched a lot of it through ProView, shameless plug. But it was a pretty exciting weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about ProView with Greeley when he gets on, but did you have and I don't know, Mark, did you get a chance to take a look at any of it? Mark, are you muted? Am I muted?
He is muted. He muted himself.
Okay, good job.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm a mess. I'm a fucking mess. Yeah, I did get ProView. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Riot hooked me up. It was great.
I think we are supposed to say that, actually.
I don't know if we're supposed to be like, no, we're the common people.
Oh, yeah,
We don't get
they're
tons
supposed
of
to be
free
giving me a
shit.
review code soon, too, so I'll probably try to do something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so got ProView, watched a lot of stuff with it. There wasn't like a single matchup where I was like really stoked to see it, but like it was cool to see like, oh, Licorice found this cool flank. I'm gonna go back and watch it from his perspective. And like any big play, any triple kill type stuff is fun to see from someone's perspective. But yeah, overall, like the thing I actually enjoyed the most from it was the shit talk that came out, and like flaming double lift and like Jensen flaming rush but then losing, like all that stuff like already has made ProView worth it.
Yeah.
I went back and was watching games of Faker from MSI, and it was so like in 2016 I had watched behind Faker at Madison Square Gardens during Worlds, and was like, I don't understand this guy looks like he's playing StarCraft, and so I kind of went back and was like, oh no, that's exactly what it feels like he's doing. This wasn't just from afar.
Yeah, I remember Piglet. I think a lot of the Korean pros are the same way, but I used to, when I was coaching Piglet, stand behind him and watch. And like, if I was too focused on him, I would get like nauseous sometimes with how much he's moving the camera around.
Well, I don't want us to. We obviously have a limited amount of time with Sherman. So, Mark, do you want to explain how the show works?
Yeah. So if this is your first time watching, everybody, welcome to the show. The way this works is it's a live call-in show. So I am posting the Discord link, spamming it Twitch chat right now. Go ahead and join up there. When you get there, join either Pleb Calls 2, or Sub Calls. You can mute your microphone once you're in there. And then in Pleb Topics and Subtopics, that's where you're going to type out what it is you want to talk about. Try and make it a take. So, you know, you're not just saying, I want to talk about collegiate esports, because that could mean anything. But, like, I think Riot not partnering with the NCAA is good, or I think it's a missed opportunity. You know, whatever it is you want to talk about, go ahead and post it. If we like it, we'll pull you from the Pleb Calls area to the waiting room where you'll hang out until it's your turn. Then we'll do a quick audio test, and you'll be on air talking to Sherman right after that.
Awesome. So while you guys are grabbing, Sherman, do you want to also talk about the announcement that maybe flew under the radar for some of the people that weren't paying attention during the collegiate weekend?
Sure, yeah. I'm assuming you're talking about RSA.
Yes. Was there another announcement that would have been it?
It was a busy week. Okay. I just had to double check. So last week we announced the Riot Scholastic Association of America, which is effectively our new governing body for College League of Legends. And eventually, kind of as we expand into high school, will continue to be our governing body over all of Scholastic esports. And really what we were looking to do is kind of officialize the way that we operate in the space. We've kind of run a season now for 6 years, and this was our 6th championship. So we really wanted to kind of show that next step in kind of maturing the ecosystem. We built a board of advisors of external people who all work in college esports, either at a university, at a conference network. Really, we had our first meeting, and it's really been focused around how do we want to continue to grow College League of Legends.
So we can talk a little bit about that as well. I'm sure that'll be a hot topic among the questions. Looks like you're already pulling some people into the waiting room, Mark. Should we maybe grab somebody?
Yeah, sorry. One of the people I was talking to is on their phone at 4% posting topics.
No worries. I mean, the other thing I should mention, by the way, is that if you are a sub, first off, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. You're, helping out me a lot. But you can also post your topic in the subtopics channel, which moves a little slower, so it does give you a little bit of an edge if that's what you're looking to do.
Also, if you're in, well, someone just left the waiting room. If you're in waiting room, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Mark can't. You can't hear Mark if he joins and tries to talk to you.
Yeah. Also, I don't know who just left, but I will find you.
Okay.
And I will either put you back in the waiting room or ban you forever.
Well, it looks like you've got your first. Okay, there it goes. How was your day, Sherman?
It was good. It was my first day back in a week.
Oh yeah.
After some time off.
Well, you had like a conference you went to, right?
I did fly down to Atlanta for a day, but I was there for less than 12 hours.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty short. You flew in and out the same day?
I flew in the evening and then went to dinner. The talk was at 10 o'clock, and then we were on a flight at 2. Oh. So I guess it was less than 24 hours, but it felt like no time at all.
Yeah, that is a short period of time. While we're waiting on Mark, just some quick shout outs. Thank you to, where are we? Mama's Cupcakes, Siege79, Ricky, and it looks like Siege is here right now. Siege, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Hey there, guys. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay. Have you called in before?
This is my first time, actually, and I just subbed tonight, and I still can't even figure out how to get everything connected, but I'm still glad I was able to get on the show.
Yeah, it takes a little bit sometimes for the sub thing to sync on Discord, but your audio setup sounds incredible.
I feel like I put way too much money into it, honestly, but thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it.
We wish all of our guests put
Mark C's over there with the whole little headset thing going on, so
yes, yeah, exactly. Hey, it's great.
And I get
an Alienware
shit from
headset.
it
He's
all
proud
the
to have
time.
it. He's proud to have it. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Siege?
Sherman, just wanted to say that being a recent college graduate myself, I really do appreciate everything that you're doing. It's awesome. I've been in contact with a lot of esports coaches local to the Grand Rapids area. Mm-hmm. And one of the big issues that they're running into is that they're seeing all these headlines of, oh, Drake just invested into 100 Thieves, like money. And the higher ups, like, even though obviously college esports is growing at a humongous pace and it's amazing, all of the schools are kind of going at it more of like a marketing opportunity. And one of the main issues that coaches are having, that at least ones that I've talked to personally, is like trying to like heed the expectations, be like, hey, this is like an investment sort of thing. Like I know like one of them like personally like was getting like a lot of feedback from just like trying to like get like a couple computers set up, even though they had like pretty much they're only giving out scholarships, but they're not actually wanting to invest in the program itself. So I just kind of wanted to see like if those were any issues that you guys were running into, and if so, how you guys are trying to plan on like combating that.
Yeah, it's a great first question, because I think so a lot of our focus over the last couple of years has been how do we change universities' perspectives or help guide universities' perspectives on the role of esports within the university. The first thing we usually tell them is like, because a school will call us, they'll be like, we want to host an event. We have a 10,000 person basketball arena. We want to host a college show match in it. And we'll be like, whoa, don't start there. That's years down the line. A lot more of our focus is actually on like the non-monetary side. So what is the right mix of kind of building up your varsity program, but also engaging your college community, using esports kind of within your within your marketing materials in a way that's all helpful. The hardest thing for us when it comes to talking to schools is a lot of schools either want to copy and paste what another school is doing.
Yep.
Or they aren't exactly sure like where to start, and that's what we kind of focus a lot of our efforts on. Is not telling them here's the one solve. It's, hey, let's look at like what you as a university are trying to do. UC Irvine, I think, was able to build a really great program because they really early on addressed what the goals of it were and how it was beneficial for the university. And they did so in a way that also was like, well, of course you're going to invest in a facility on campus, and of course you're going to kind of scholarship teams. That's not always going to be the case for every school.
Totally.
And so I think the important thing is just schools knowing why they want to do it, and less so like right now on the individual execution, because otherwise you might end up with like the worst version of this is a bunch of schools pour in millions and millions of dollars expecting like a 1 or 2 year return that won't be there. So we like the RSAA is kind of like our first platform, or it's our new platform for kind of communicating that message. We used to like, the only way we would talk to schools was we would go to conferences or get on the phone, but we wouldn't go on like leagueoflegends.com and say like, hey, university presidents, you're thinking about esports, here's what you need to think about. Because that's not what that website was meant for. So kind of like building out the RSAA will be our primary way of doing that going forward.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you for the great answer. I appreciate
Sherman,
it.
do you ever find that like people, like the colleges reach out and they're like, okay, cool, we're going to make all this money, and then you're like, hey, that's kind of not how you start, and then they're like, never mind, we're out?
Yeah, and it's I mean, you know, obviously we always try and like walk it back from that. We don't want it to be like an all or nothing. Yeah, the number one thing we tell a school is like, I had a call with the school today, and they were just like, first and foremost, it doesn't cost us a dime to better support our club. Our club wants to use a computer lab that already exists on campus to like host an event. There's no reason we should be stopping that anymore. And so, you know, just kind of figuring out, there's never a reason to completely back down from it. But yeah, I do occasionally get the school that's like, oh, we're not going to make a bunch of money off of this on day one. Okay, well, we'll back out.
Yeah, that probably sucks.
Yeah.
Mark,
No,
you
one of the.
go ahead.
Go ahead. My bad.
No, you're fine.
I was just gonna say that one of the coaches that I was talking to actually had like the school promised him that they would totally renovate like an entirely new area, like in the actual facilities and everything, and he practically got like a half done like old locker room. It's like, yeah, it's just like the whole. Obviously, there's a big spectrum of them not wanting to like invest in everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you should finish. I was going to combo off. That was something else.
I think it's like, in one sense, I think that sounds kind of like the early days of LCS teams. Like, Travis, you probably went to a variety of different, like, team houses back in the day.
Mark used to live in a closet.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, there is a reality while it is, like, growing. Some schools are going to take it more seriously than others. And so a lot of schools are going to feel really good about in that investment just because that's what they feel like this is worth to them right now.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's, you know, in one sense, it's like both you don't want them to go overboard. You don't want them to go underboard. There's got to be a sweet spot in the middle, and finding that's the hardest part.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that probably also goes off of like, obviously, like all the fans always see the huge LCS productions and everything, especially with the collegiate people being able to use that personally. So obviously that disparity is probably there too. So it makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Hey, thanks so much for calling in, Siege. Or Mark, do you have any? Go ahead.
I just wanted to combo because someone else hit in the chat. I don't want to pull caller for it, but was like, "What's your advice for speaking to university administration as a coach trying to get like a club or even something more substantial started up? Like, what's a good pitch, I guess, or like a good place to start for them?"
Is this a question for Siege or Sherman?
Sherman, I guess, because he.
I mean, I can try to answer.
Yeah, you can answer too.
I probably wouldn't give a good answer, but I mean, I can try.
I mean, if you have first-hand experience, you can at least say, "I tried this and it didn't work," or "It did." You know, I think there's a coach asking in chat. So
yeah, totally. Well, I mean, from my personal experience, obviously not as much as Sherman, but I mean, I was trying to get an esports program-ish, like nothing compared to like an actual varsity program at my school, but it's also a very small Christian university with very closed-minded older people that are in charge of everything. So it didn't really get that far. So, you know, but then also one of the other universities also like is another, I don't know, Grand Rapids, Michigan is really big for like educational places that are very like religious based. So
the thing I usually tell anybody is just look for allies across the university. There's never going to be one person outside of, like, from my experience, there's never going to be one person outside of a university president that can like unilaterally say like, we're going to invest this much money into esports. Because it's like no school has an esports budget just sitting around that they don't know, like, that they're looking for advice on what to do with. So just like look for like talk to professors that you think might make sense, talk to student life people, talk to athletics people, just kind of like, and don't ever go in with like the hard sell. Just start with the like building the relationship. I think like the hardest part of all of this is getting the right people in the room. And it might be like a little far down the line before you get those people in the room, but you got to start somewhere.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Siege,
no, that makes sense.
thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thanks you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything you want to say on the way out?
Like I said, I appreciate you guys having me. Keep up the good work. Bold prediction: 100 Thieves is gonna win.
Is gonna what?
They're gonna win the split.
Okay.
100%.
Time for you to leave. Goodbye. Okay. On to.
I mean, I bought their stock, so I was in with him for a little bit.
Yeah, everybody bought their stock, and then
They were so cheap.
Yeah.
It's like you see this like $1 a pound meat. You're like, how can I not buy it?
I
And
heard
then you buy it,
Kobe.
and you're like, well, this is why it was $1 a pound.
Kobe was on Discord last night, and I just hear him from the other room being like, "They were half the cost of the winning team," and then they said, "Well, I bought it." Well, because I guess he must have bought some too, right?
We all went in after the weekend into like the post LCS story meeting, and everyone's like, I bought TSM or I bought 100 Thieves. So
Yeah.
all of them are just fucking pissed.
Nice.
Everyone is pissed.
All right. Well, we got we're running low on time. Maybe we got another. We can push Greeley a little bit, but let's got another 20 minutes or so. Quick shout out to some more people who subbed. Pokemans. Thank you for the 10 months. Presto. Ovally and Reaper, thank you for the raids. Bro Jangles for 10 months. Ari Whittle for 16. Is Panda. You Can't Control Me. Sergiandy 54 and Geek Out, who just hit 12 months. It says more vlogs with Brodin, please. I'm sure that those will come. We have another caller. Parth, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Great Los Angeles area.
The Great Los Angeles area or the Greater Los Angeles area?
Probably both.
Okay.
Is there a specific part that's great where the rest is like average?
Yeah.
Where's the
Sorry.
best Los Angeles area?
Yeah.
Everything else is average.
So, Sherman, just get your Word doc ready because I think you might get assigned an essay here in a second.
Holy.
No,
Parth,
all the OGs write in Notepad.
Parth,
I actually do that too. Holy shit.
Parth, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So I guess I'll just turn it into a two-parter. First one was with the collegiate infrastructure kind of building up. Do you see a lot of former pro players or staff members that are currently in the professional scene joining the collegiate scene? And the second part is, do you see any players that are currently in collegiate that have the chance to join LCS?
Parth is looking for some new pickups during the break, so if you could give him just a list right now, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So on the first one, that's like the age old like, oh well, this is where all the pros are gonna go after they graduate, and like it's kind of happening. But I every year I feel like I like toot this horn is like I feel like the average age of a pro player is going up, so there's like more and more likely that they have some college experience already. Whether or not it was like on a college team is like, or not saying that, just the fact that they like might have been in college. And I think like we're eventually going to hit like a wave where there won't be that many that want to go back. I also like I really like, even with college esports aside, don't hear of many pro players going back to college after they finish their pro career. And then lastly, the other point is like pro careers are just getting longer. I think that's like again kind of like contributes to the idea that they're less likely to want to go back, especially depending on age. There's nothing stopping them, and we don't have like plans to stop people or like get in the way of that. But we just kind of think it's like naturally not gonna happen. Like it's not like, we just don't think it's gonna happen like a lot of people think it will.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot more coaches though. I think like it was really interesting like reading Xpecial's comments about coaching Harrisburg and like how it was like a totally new world for him, but like very interesting because it was not like anything he'd ever dealt with in the pros, but he got to like bring a bunch of pro experience with him, which I think was pretty cool. And then on the second part, I'm relying on what everyone else told me at the college championship, and Mark probably has a better perspective on this. I think like Niles is somebody that like could make it to academy sometime soon.
Can you give a little bit of like context on because for people that didn't watch the collegiate thing, they might want to know like who Niles is, like what role or what his specialty is.
Niles was the top laner for Maryville. He just was like constantly putting on pressure. I think Mark would describe it a lot better than I would. The other one that I think is also like really good is Misty Stumpy, who was at Scouting Grounds last year. But Mark, what do you think?
So I think Niles is interesting because he doesn't have any like even amateur experience. I'm pretty sure he might have played on like some teams recently, but it's not like CKG as jungler was someone who, you know, formerly Cat God, had like a lot of amateur experience and relative. So I think Niles is really interesting because he's pretty young. He seems like he has a good attitude. Like he's very confident and he's very mechanically gifted. I think he was top 50 challenger.
Yeah.
For top lane as a top laner. So he's really good. He's the one that stands out a lot. And he joined Maryville apparently specifically because he wanted to join a good collegiate esports program. So he seems like a good person to keep an eye on. I would say CKG just because he did have a really good showing, and I was talking to some of the other junglers in the tournament, and they all respect him a lot. He's a little older, but I think he's graduating soon, so he could be up for it. Misty Stumpy's good. There was one marksman player who I'm really blanking on. I thought
Remember what school?
okay. I don't remember. I just remember like, oh, he looked good. It wasn't Youngbin, but I don't know. Youngbin was the best AD, so maybe I'm just crazy. Yeah, maybe it was Short Hop, but I feel like Short Hop's older.
Short Hop is a little older, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought overall this was like the most exciting championship we've ever had. So I was just excited to see like the level of skill kind of continue to go up. It's always like a couple years, like when we first did this, there were a bunch of plat players in the college championship, and now like everyone is masters and challenger and grandmasters. So it's like way more exciting to watch than it used to be.
TSM Niles, Parth.
I actually talked to him. Remember last year when we were doing our scouting grounds?
Yeah.
He was, so we had someone who dropped out, and then I like messaged him because he was our like third or fourth pick. But by then he had other obligations and couldn't come. But yeah, he's a good guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And one thing one thing I would know also about what you said about coaches moving over is every coach I've spoken to who's worked in both collegiate and pro play always says it's so much more fun to coach collegiate or amateur because they just listen to everything you say and you feel like you have much more impact. So, yeah.
Do you think we'll see? Do you think we'll see more pro players go the collegiate, like the coaching route for collegiate?
I'm not sure. I guess it depends on the program and the salaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think like the quality of school continues to like go up, and like eventually you're going to get schools that are willing, in theory, to like invest quite a bit. And I think that will always be like, I think that will continue to grow. What do you think about like college talent? Do you think like you're going to see more college players go to the LCS?
I'm not sure. That's why it's like a thing that everyone is kind of wondering, but
yeah,
most people that want to go pro instead of going to college. So it's interesting that there's players like Niles and who was it? Fake God that came to Scouting Grounds last year that no one kind of knew about and was in college. I think there'll be like maybe talents like those that just have no amateur experience and no one knows that end up going to college, joining a team, and then being discovered. But I think it'll be pretty rare.
So I hear Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the thing that's best for college is for players who are like skilled but in between. Like Revenge would be a guy who, like, I think if the collegiate scene was as developed as it was, you know, when he made the decision, like hopefully we could see him at least in collegiate. And some of those guys who are like, I'm very smart and I'm not sure I want to invest my entire life into esports because I have other talents and prospects, but this is a good like middle ground. So I hope it's like we get to see more people like Revenge and Niles and Fake God ended up actually just not even doing the collegiate scene because I think he impressed enough in scouting grounds. But like he was someone I think who would have ended up in the collegiate scene on a great team had he not been so successful at the scouting grounds premiere.
I always hear that like the number one thing that teams are like looking for more and more is like, yes, like there's an abundance of mechanically good players. It's all the stuff that you don't get from solo queue. And so I mean, that leads to just like any competitive outlet will eventually like should be valuable in that regard. And like not everybody can go join an academy team. So like that's always my view on college is like, well, of course college players are going to eventually come from college. There's a competitive face to play.
Hey, Parth, thanks so much for calling in.
Yep.
Any shout outs for you on the way out?
TSM.
Have a good one.
See
See ya.
Okay. TSM. All right, we gotta get through the next couple of calls pretty quickly.
All right.
Let's see. We got more shout outs. Boater Michael, thank you for the 14 months. The Gruza, I don't know how to say Greeley's name, but anyway, he said thank you.
The
Grizza.
Grizza.
Grizza? Okay.
He's part of the Wu-Tang. Didn't you know?
We got Synthetica here. Synthetica, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Vermont.
Vermont. Awesome. Well, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So I want to talk about collegiate esports, and specifically, I am sort of questioning how much more, or if at all, Riot should really invest into the college scene, because unlike traditional sports, there really isn't a system for it to feed into pro esports. I know you were just sort of talking about that a little bit, but the issue is, if you have like a freshman or sophomore that looks really good, it's a little weird to like take them out of college, like poach them out of college. And I mean, maybe some people will do that if they decide that's the direction they want to go, but just in terms of like investment on like the viewing experience for people, like I thought what it was this year was really cool. Seeing the finals was fun. I tuned in, but I don't really know if beyond that there's a lot of room for it to grow.
Yeah. So, it's really, that's like something I used to get a lot, or hear a lot when I first started at Riot. And also like, that was kind of my impression as well, very early on. The thing we always come back to is kind of like why schools invest in sports, and they don't invest in sports at all for any of the reasons of like feeding into pros. In fact, there's a lot of sports, like, especially like when it comes to making money, as an example, like only 3 sports make money, like actually generate profit across all of college sports. Instead, a lot of universities think about it for all the other ancillary benefits of having like a sport at their school. And when we start thinking like, and that's everything from like community building, like on campus directly, to building reasons for the alumni to stay engaged, to like just selling merch, and just like I have like a great connection to my university purely because of gaming at this point. Like I didn't graduate from college, but they now have a gaming team there. I follow it very closely. And like, that's my connection. And I think that's what a lot of universities are looking to invest in. And it's not so much the like path to pro. And like Riot, our focus is like, how do we help amplify that? And kind of having a championship is like a part of that. But the championship is like actually a really small percentage, not really small, but a small percentage of like what we actually like spend our money on when it comes to like investing in college. It's a lot more on like college infrastructure, like why, like what's going to make schools kind of invest more in it. I'm actually like Greeley, who's on next. So like him and I are in separate departments technically. Like we're not, like my goal is not to create a feeder system for the LCS, which yes, if that was like the goal, we would be failing at miserably.
Right. I'm just curious. I mean, in terms of like the viewership experience for collegiate, because like this year we just had like the finals, not just the finals, but like that final top 8, I think it was.
Yep.
Broadcast. Do you see a world, 5 years down the line or whatever time span where that expands, where like the watch LOL esports kind of spans the whole year, or do you think it'll just stay at that?
I think it'll, like, for the time being, we continue to, like, it's going to be the championship from LoL Esports. But kind of one of the things, like conferences, for example, like there were 6 conference championships this year that were like 5 of them included like a live event. that was hosted by like the conference. So while we might not be the ones to expand coverage, schools and conferences and like student clubs will continue to like expand coverage. Now we're focused on like how do we like broaden the number of people that know that that coverage exists. So we did like a TV guide every week this year that was like 50 college streams every weekend of like, here's where you can watch your school play. It's like more important to us that like if there are 400 league players at one school, that those 400 players know that their game is being played, not the, you know, however many players there are in North America. Like we don't need everyone to care about every school.
Right. Like
That's-
I think
that's-
coming
That's why
from
we
a-
focus on the championship.
coming from the pro player realm of League of Legends esports, like you're not gonna wanna like. There's not that much incentive, if we're being honest, for someone like me to watch a ton of collegiate because a lot of like Sherman was saying, the finals has leveled up a lot. Where like pretty much everyone's high diamond to challenger, but like there's still like there's some plat games going on and stuff like that. But if your school knows, you get to watch your friend play against another rival school or something like that, and then you get to talk about it. And like, there's a collegiate Discord that I didn't know about, but like apparently it's popping off. People are memeing in there all the time. Like, it's its own community, so it's not necessarily fair for us on the outside to go in and judge it through our standards of like, well, why would I care when it's like, well, it's not for you necessarily.
Gotcha. No, I think that answered my question a lot. Actually, thank you. And shout out to Alienware.
Thanks,
Bye.
Synthetica.
No, I just one more call. I just put them in there so people weren't yelling at him in pleb calls.
No, I was really excited to be on. I was like worried, like, oh no, it's been a week. I'm old news by now.
Are you actually muted on your stream, Travis? Everyone's saying it, but I can't tell if they're trolling. And then Greeley just said you're muted on stream. So either Greeley just trolled me, or
No,
you're
they don't.
or
They don't know what they're talking about. It's fine. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Sherman.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
Wait, hold
one
on,
more
there's one
caller.
more. Sorry. Wait. Yeah, I came back up because of that.
So do I get to ask give Greeley his first hot take?
You do get to. Oh, you want to ask Greeley a question? I'm sure we could figure that out. Presto is here. Presto, where are you calling from?
Champaign, Illinois.
Champagne. That's an awesome name.
Yeah.
I had never heard
Can
of
you
that.
guys
place.
make champagne wine because your name's Champagne and the French won't get mad at you?
It's spelled differently.
I have no idea. I'm
Oh.
not actually from here. I just go to school here. I'm here over the summer.
Awesome. Well, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I wanted to talk about how Sherman sees how does Sherman see like collegiate League of Legends as a pipeline to growing talent in North America, and how he would better, like if he had like the power to improve all of it, how he would better improve to help LCS teams find prospective talent. Like in basketball, there's like a path to pro that you see, like, oh, you're good in high school, you recruited to a college, and then you get drafted. How would you see that happening in League of Legends?
Yeah, this is actually like, this is one that I get to spend some time thinking about, and one that we want to like spend more time. I think it ultimately just comes down to like school. Everybody needs more ways to like track what's actually going on in the scene. Like high school works because like there's national rankings of like high school players, and colleges like fly out to go watch those players play. Like, so right now, like if I was to ask Mark, who are the top colleges? He'd be like, Maryville won a championship this year.
Yeah,
UC Irvine. Is UBC still good?
Columbia's usually pretty good. They had a who was the Riven player who Columbia used to have.
Back to Sherman's thoughts though.
Whatever.
Yeah. So it's to that point. It's like I think we want to focus, like, continue to figure out ways to like raise visibility. So like, what does it look like to you streamline, weekly highlights from the college scene? or like we have a week ESPN. We helped them launch a coaches bowl this year, so it's actually like easier for schools to like look up, well, like who's actually good. And so as we continue to look for opportunities to do that, and yeah, I think that's if we continue to focus on like raising visibility for the entire scene and not like we tell less and less like let's tell a story about one school, then I think we'll be able to like raise visibility and give teams like those tools. As I said a couple of times, I think like it's going to continue. College players are going to continue to improve. There's only so many pro spots, and like even this the off season between splits this year, like was probably one of the fewest trades I've ever seen or moves I've ever seen, which means that like demand is going down, but supply is going up. So like college players are going to eventually kind of be a continued outlook when you're looking for those few spots to fill.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much, Presto, for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love the show. Keep it up.
Thanks, dude. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Should we bring Greeley in and then Sherman can ask him his first question? Do you have a question for Greeley?
Yes.
Okay, great. You want to bring him in?
Hey, Greeley.
Hi.
Hello, welcome to the show. Greeley, I'm going to add you to the Skype call right now. Can you just accept it and then immediately mute your mic whenever you do?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can
Sounds hard.
ask you. Yeah, it requires a great deal of coordination.
Well, a lot of people mess it up, surprisingly.
Yeah. By the way, I noticed while we were waiting that Loco Doco is watching. I really appreciate that he supports my show. That's very nice of him.
Did you watch his Listen Loco earlier today?
No, I did not. That's why.
He invited me on it, but I turned him down because I'm
Really?
loyal.
Weren't you just on it?
I was just busy.
Okay. Well, now we're gonna bring. I thought you said you were gonna do this from the office, Greeley.
Nah, I went home.
This looks like no office at Riot I've ever seen. Okay, now you're literally covering Sherman. So now you've stolen his spot. Congratulations. All right. While I'm handling the technical issue, and we'll introduce Commissioner Greeley here in a second. But Sherman, do you want to ask him stuff while I'm figuring all the tech out?
Yeah. Greeley. Hot take. Chopper could beat you in a 1v1. Prove me wrong.
No, that's probably right. I might be the worst 1v1 player on the face of the planet.
What a
Have you played
terrible.
Dave?
Wow,
This was not exciting in the slightest.
No, it's not. It's
The really
not.
unfortunate thing is I thought long and hard about this all day, and that's all I got.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
great. Well, hey Sherman, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
We'll maybe next year at around the same time we'll have you rejoin.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
have
have
a
a
good
good
rest of the show.
See you, Sherm.
See ya.
All right. I'm finalizing the tech stuff, but do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Greeley?
Yeah. My name is Chris Greeley. I am the commissioner of the LCS. I run our league operations and responsible for all the day-to-day stuff at LCS.
Can you give maybe a little bit of context on like what an example of that would be?
Sure. So, all right. How come I can't talk about my own job? That is bizarre.
I believe in you.
Yeah. So inside of League Ops, we deal with like all of the rules, disciplinary decisions. We, as part of the day-to-day stuff, like I oversee our business development folks. I oversee player management, the referees. I work with our broadcast team to help make sure that all the stuff that we have to do on broadcast every week, we're doing, and that everything is sort of as good as it can be. It's like all pretty broad.
Gotcha. So like all sort of, in other words, if anyone watching this right now, and I'm sure Mark will tweet out right now that you're on, has any issue whatsoever with the LCS, now's their moment to call in and share their take or ask you the question about it.
Yeah, it's like the holiday on Seinfeld. all my
Our
Festivus.
audience will not get that reference.
No, I guess that's right. I'm like 100 years old, so all my references really do fly
Yeah,
over everyone's head.
It's all good.
I did pull 1 or 2 spicy takes. I think I don't know if they're spicy, just like real questions
Gotcha.
about stuff. So
Real. I mean, we that's what I'm hoping for is real questions.
I mean,
It'd be-
sometimes you get like, there's one question that's like, why isn't there an event in Texas? And I feel like that's been answered like 20 times. You know, that's a softball.
Yeah, we're hopefully soon. There's a bunch of logistical and candidly some tax issues that I think we're dealing with and getting out of the way.
I've been saying tax issues on the show for a long time when people bring up Texas questions, and so I'm happy that it's finally been mentioned.
Yeah. So hopefully, I think we're well on our way to removing some of those. So we want to go to Texas as much as people want us to go to Texas.
Awesome. Exciting. Well, we've got you invading this other wall. Hang on. Let me figure.
You can just make me big. I'll cover up both of you.
There we go. That's what I need to do.
Full screen on Greeley,
Are you
please.
able to move your webcam down a little bit? Because that's what I'm combating.
Okay. No.
Travis will just always nitpick and complain. Like, God forbid you move. Like, I
care about the production on this show, Mark.
Well, why don't you just not punch in? Give me my whole webcam to work with.
Okay, so are you pulling questions right now?
No, you told me to tweet. I was tweeting.
All right. While you pull questions, because I'm sure we're going to get questions going in just a second.
I have some ready to go.
While he pulls questions, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor. Take a quick break. Alienware. They sponsor all the stuff that I do. They sponsor LCS, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's a little backwards. They sponsor LCS, which is fantastic. They sponsor Team Liquid. They're doing a cool thing. I don't know if it's still running right now, but they've been doing a really awesome activation across Twitch where a bunch of streamers have been able to compete, get points, and I think you can earn RP and all this kind of stuff. So super committed to the League of Legends scene. They just announced, this is at Computex, and I think you'll be able to see them at E3 if anybody's going to E3. Their new takes on the M15 and M17, beautiful computers. Go check them out at, actually, I think you might have to just Google some of the media coverage because I'm not sure if they are up just yet. Maybe next week or the week after on alienware.com/Travis. If you're thinking about getting a new computer for the summer because you know it's dangerous to go outside because there's terrible things that happen out there, this is a computer that you could get, the M15 or the M17. Maybe you're headed off to college soon. Maybe you're in college. You want that. Check them out. They've got the awesome design language that they used on the Area 51M, if you've been seeing those commercials on the LCS. And guess what? When you order that or anything else over on the Alienware website, I think at least as far as systems and monitors go, I need to check on peripherals, but you can use you can use Travis 10 off. I know if you watch the LCS, there's a code that they show on that. Don't use that code. That's a bad code. You want to give me the credit. Don't give LCS the credit. Travis 10 off for 10% off your Alienware purchase. Thank you so much to Alienware for supporting everything that I do, including this show, so that Mark can get paid when he finally sends me an invoice once every 6 months and my checking account drains because that's how long it took. Anyway, thanks again to
it's coming. Get ready.
And if you're watching the VOD, you can check out the links in the description. Mark, you want to grab us our first caller?
Yeah.
Okay. Off he goes. How's your day been? And also, should I call you Greeley on here? Commissioner Greeley? Mr. Commissioner?
You can go with Chris works.
Chris? Okay, because no one I know calls you Chris.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I've only ever heard the Commish Greeley. Commissioner Greeley.
Look, whatever you're comfortable with, I will answer to. So.
Okay. Is that a deflated Mother's Day balloon behind you?
It says Valentine's, I think.
No, so it's like a ceramic heart that my kids made for me. It actually says Happy Father's Day.
Okay, that's very sweet. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is Panda's here? Is Panda, where are you calling from? Is Panda's here? Is Panda, where are you calling from? Mark?
I swear to God, I mic checked this guy 2 seconds ago.
Panda? Panda. All right, we're sending him back to the waiting room.
Giving him a 5 count.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna kick him out. I'm gonna ban him from the server.
No, it's fine. Maybe he'll come back.
I don't know why I want to ban.
You want to go grab the next caller?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. It's okay. Our stream does duck down for a second because my internet's being stupid. It'll come back. Oh wait, no, we're spamming. Chat's spamming F because we kicked Panda. I'm very sad. I'm very sad. How long have you been at Riot now?
I started at the beginning of 2017, so
Okay.
almost 2.5 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
How have you found it? How have you found working at Riot?
Oh, I was like, what? I mean, it's been good. What am I going to say? It sucks. The people I work with are great. The product's super fun. Like, I used to be a securities and commodities lawyer.
Yeah.
This is a lot more fun than that ever was.
I assume it's fairly stressful.
It depends on the day.
Yeah. All right. Ventus official is here. Ventus, where are you calling from?
Washington, D.C. area.
Washington, D.C. area. Awesome. And what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So I want to talk about how Fantasy League being like seriously implemented would be really beneficial for the league. And it's kind of an expansion of a call last week, but I've been thinking about it and I think it could be super helpful.
And
So
we should
before
say.
we hop in there,
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I wasn't following this super closely, so correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. I had heard that there were plans, or people in Twitch chat were saying that there were plans to bring it back for summer, and then there was an announcement that it's not coming back for summer or
Yes,
something.
signed by Commissioner Greeley. So this is he's the perfect individual
Right.
to
Yeah.
win fantasy.
So what happened?
All right. So here's the full context, and a lot of it's in the post, but easier to hear like from a human. Trying to like center out so Travis doesn't mess with my camera again. The product when we initially released Fantasy a couple of years ago was super popular. So a couple 100,000 people used it. It was great. Like before I worked at Riot, I played it all the time. I enjoyed it. But people eventually stopped playing it, and part of that was our fault, right? The product never changed. It was always like the same product that we released in 2015 is the same fantasy platform we shut down at the end of 2017. And along the way, there were a bunch of format changes. So if you were trying to follow EU and NA, we were on best of threes, they were on best of twos, and like you had different number of games being played. The scoring was a mess. There was no way to find a group. So if you had a group of friends and like the person who was organizing the group stopped playing, like your whole group fell apart. The whole thing, the whole product, despite all of the work that the people who were doing, like the people working on it were doing up until the very end, turned into a total mess. We weren't putting resources into it anymore, and people weren't playing it. So like then you kind of get into that like nice cycle where it's like, well, why would we put resources in if people aren't playing anymore? And why would people play if we're not putting resources in? So we shut it down at the end of 2017 or end of 2018. I'm sorry, and we had a plan. We were going to take spring off. We were going to take all the resources that we were putting into fantasy. So the money, the manpower, like all the people who were working on fantasy weren't on a fantasy team. They all had other jobs and they were pitching in to help keep fantasy afloat. So we sent everyone back to do their day jobs. We took the resources we were putting in there and kind of focused them on relaunching fantasy for summer, which was the plan all the way through spring. And along the way, like we talked to daily fantasy operators, we talked to the largest fantasy sport operators in America. We talked to other companies in the ecosystem who were building digital products that could build something alongside their product, and we didn't find a match. Right? It's not that we weren't trying. It's not that we weren't having the conversations, but at some point, right, in those conversations, you sit down and you tell a prospective partner, like, hey, we want to build a weekly fantasy game. We want to build a pick'em. We want to build, sort of all the things that we were talking about. And we had some partners say, all right, well, that's not really interesting to us. We want to build a different kind of game. It's like, all right, well, that sounds like an interesting idea, but if you want to try your thing, you still have to do our thing, because our fans are looking for a daily fantasy or a weekly fantasy game that they can get into and play with their friends. So we had some partners.
The fantasy operators didn't want to build a fantasy game?
So depending on who you were talking to, right?
Okay.
So we got some folks who didn't want to build a normal fantasy game. They didn't think it was the right fit for esports, right? It's the idea that people who are watching esports like to play games, so they should create some games that are, they should gamify fantasy, even though fantasy by itself is a game. we had some folks we sat down with and we got to the point like we're all aligned on the product we're going to make, and they said, all right, show us all of your user numbers for the last couple of years so we know what we're getting into. And we would show those numbers and they'd go, ooh, all right, I'm not sure how we're going to rebuild a user base. It's like, well, we have our broadcast where hundreds of thousands of people watch every weekend. We can tie it into broadcast, we can do a whole thing. And there were some of those folks said, well, in order to try to rebuild your user base, we want a lot more money, we want to take a lot more of the revenue, and we couldn't find terms that worked for them, because at the end of the day, we still have 10 LCS teams who are going to rev share off of this, and we can't sort of give the whole thing away and have everyone make it super successful, and then the teams in the league and eventually pro players don't make any money from it. We had some folks who were interested in doing it, but like on a vastly different timetable. So look, whole stack of excuses. But we worked through a lot of those partnership discussions for all of spring. And there came a point where we thought, all right, well, even if we get a partner on board today, unless they have something that's turnkey, we're probably not going to be able to deliver for summer. But we continue to have conversations, and no one wants to write the post that's like, hey, we're probably not going to be up and running for summer, when you're still 4 weeks out or 5 weeks out and you still have some hope. And then we woke up one morning, and I woke up one morning and realized, oh, crap, we're going into MSI. We're not going to have something done. People are going to want to know where the product is. I promised an update weeks ago that I didn't deliver on. So the timing on the announcement was just awful. We have a plan. It's a good plan. We are trying to finalize that plan. And when we do, if and when we do, we want to kind of provide transparency the whole way. So we have an announcement due on July 15th. That's sort of the mark in the sand in terms of when we're going to come back, because just saying mid-split, as I did last time, doesn't give enough of a marker. So by July 15th, we'll give an update on progress. Hopefully before that, we can come out and say like, hey, we're doing a thing. And then, as we progress kind of through our plan, we want to be able to provide visibility. We're going to sit down with, assuming it all comes together, sit down with the LCS teams, sit down with Parth, who has told me over and over again about his love of fantasy and the 30-page white paper he wrote on scoring systems, making supports a useful part of a fantasy system. We're going to bring in the teams, we're going to bring in our creative folks, we're going to bring in our business development folks, and we're going to kind of all work together to make sure that we're getting a product that that our fans in the fantasy community are going to love, but that is also reaching different parts of our fan base that aren't sitting around going, man, I wish I could play some fantasy.
Yeah,
there's a plan there. This is for as absolutely incompetent as this whole thing sort of makes us look, and our inability to deliver something, this is the one product, one experience that I is near and dear to me. This is like the hill I die on, right? This is the one thing, if I don't do anything else for the rest of the time I'm at Riot.
Fantasy LCS is the hill you're going to die on?
Yeah.
Really, we've got monetization issues. We've got teams that are supposedly going to be selling soon, and fantasy LCS is your thing that you're going to die on?
It's my thing I'm going to die on, yeah.
Oh, geez.
Hey, I respect that, all right, Travis. Anyone could die for monetization or whatever. Only Greeley's going to die for fantasy. He's the hero we need, not the one.
Depending on how the next year or two goes, he might die for monetization too. Greeley.
Jeez.
So it's
wow, coming in hot.
It sounds like you are going to do this with a partner.
Yeah, we're not going to build this internally.
Okay, because that was the weird thing, was the for me when I read, and maybe I just misread it or I skimmed too much or something, but in the post you're like, yeah, we talked to all these partners, none of them want to do it, and then it was like, why doesn't Riot just make one yourself? And you're like, well, we don't want to do it either, but we've got our announcements coming, and I'm like, wait, so who's doing it? But so it sounds like you guys have a partner, you're just working on the details.
Yeah, we're trying to see if it's something we can get over the finish line.
Okay. Awesome.
I think I saw some people in Twitch chat having this opinion of oh, so it went for the fans to for the players, and I think, if I may attempt to interpret this for Greeley, the problem with the old product was that it wasn't benefiting the other than engaging people, but there was no actively working on it because it wasn't making its own money. So that's how I understand it. So by making it a profitable venture. You get to spend more money on it to build a better product, so it's better for everyone. So it's for the fans, but you want to deliver something good for the fans, which means it should be good for everyone, not just like a giant sunk cost. If I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, look, we're trying to hit a couple, like the old product, like it had a core audience that loved it, but that core audience was really small. And like for the amount of resources we had to put in to keep that monstrosity afloat, it just wasn't worthwhile. Especially because it's a space where you can do something awesome. So like if we were, if we were running some small game and there were, 30,000 people that loved playing it every week and it costs us very little to keep going, like and there wasn't an opportunity to do something bigger, that makes a lot of sense. But the fantasy space is wide open, and it's a really important part of fan engagement. So I not only want to create a better fantasy product for the hardcore fantasy fans, but I want to create something that's also great for the casual fans in a different kind of game. Like we want to put something together that's goes both sort of broad and deep, if that makes sense.
Ventus, do you have any final thoughts on the way out?
Well, damn, I had this whole spiel of like why it would be good and how it compared to traditional sports, but I think it's really cool that you guys actually still care about it. I haven't actually been following up with all the announcements on it. It's just like I have a coworker at work who's like 38 and never has played League of Legends in his life, but knows more about the pro players just because he plays DraftKings for League. And I think it's just super cool to get that type of experience. And just the way that esports is consumed, like it's just so perfect for fantasy. So I'm glad that you guys are still working on it. I'd rather you guys actually just take your time than it be rushed. And like not that the last product was rushed, but like having a full-fledged product, even if it takes longer, I still think that's a lot better than just trying to push something out now. So I'm just really glad to hear that you guys still care about it.
Thanks so much for calling in, Ventus.
Thank you.
Mark, if you want to grab the next caller, and then I have to run for 60 seconds.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I forgot about something, and my apartment will explode unless I disarm. Oh, he's gone. Okay. A couple of quick shout-outs.
I still appreciated the joke.
You know, he already... yeah. Hollow Moon, LOL, thank you for the 15 months. Purple Ray Q for 14. Nihilist Gamer for 12 months. 1 whole year. The Pack 69, Hype Love Shack, Casey Faces, and Whoopley. Thanks, Whoopley. Fantastic. Anyway, Is Panda's back? Is Panda, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
What happened before?
Well, my computer blue screened. It got so excited that I was here with you guys.
Alienware.com/Travis. Travis Tenoff. What?
Right, this is exactly what happens when you don't have an Alienware computer.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Where are you calling from?
Rancho Cucamonga, California.
Oh, okay, so not too far. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I almost feel like that place isn't real. Like
the name is hilarious.
So ridiculous. I know I've been there, but it's just like, hey, welcome to Rancho Cucamonga. It sounds like a fucking like Looney Tunes name.
I have to say the full name because it's so fun.
What do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Panda?
I want to talk about the recent introduction of ProView to the products that the LCS offer. I think it's something that I've been wanting since I started watching Professional League of Legends in season 2. Like, it's such a brilliant idea to be able to watch your favorite player's personal view, because it completely changes the way the entire game is viewed.
Hello?
Oh
no,
my
did we blue
god.
screen again?
We're still here. No, we're here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh.
Sorry.
Fantastic. Sorry.
Sorry.
Continue,
When you have full view of the full map, it gives you less of an idea of what players themselves are physically seeing. And my example that I give of this all the time is the Chinese streams have had the player POV streams for a little bit of time now, and I actually watched MSI from Doublelift's POV in those games, and Rookie had when Rookie was playing Zoe, it gives you such a different like view of the game watching Doublelift try and like dodge Zoe's skill shots from Fog of War. And I think that by itself is worth the $15. The other features are super great, and on top of that, but sorry, my question is there anything that we're gonna do to like make it more worth it to travel to the LCS and view it live? When we're at the moment, it seems like it's more worth it to stay home and watch ProView because ProView is so exciting and new. And I'm sort of like, maybe I don't want to take that 30-minute drive to go watch the LCS live when I could just stay home and watch ProView.
I mean, how many times has Doublelift shown up in your living room to high five you after he wins a game?
Ooh.
That's true. That's a very good point. But at the same time, as someone like myself, I've been going since season 3. I've shaken Doublelift's hand like 100 times. And I think he's kind of tired of seeing my face.
Yeah, look, you see the same thing in conventional sports, right? I grew up in Jersey. I was a New York Giants fan. Like, football season in Jersey is really fucking cold. So like, why would you go to a football game in December when you could sit on your couch and drink a beer and like be warm and not have to go, right? We're always going to face, like, we're inherently a digital experience. And we work really hard to make the live experience fun. Like, I saw your question in the Discord. The week 1 tailgate was like week 1, day 1 is always the day you can't get near the studio. Like, we have, it's the one day where we worry, like, are we over capacity in the building? Almost all of the teams come out to tailgate. You can go get a taco and 14 different energy drinks. Like, it's a really fun atmosphere. But we've put a lot of that experience on teams, and for teams to come out and tailgate, because they're really the ones who create that experience. For them to come out and tailgate, it has to be, it's a huge resource sink for them. Like, they have to, it's just a bunch of money. And for them to come out and do that every, for 18 days, a split, it starts to get a little bit taxing on them. So I think teams sort of pick and choose their spots, and, most people come out for week 1, day 1. Everybody else sort of ebbs and flows through the season. So we've got a little bit of that, right? Trying to create that, find a way to create that environment in the parking lot before the game that makes people want to show up. We've got in-studio stuff. So the merchandise store at the arena is in the middle of an upgrade. You'll see sort of new products every week you go. We're bringing in some outside team merch. We're bringing in some sort of outside people that don't have anything to do with our teams. I don't want to spoil anything, but they should start to be in for week 2.
Celebrities?
Not celebrities. That'd be awesome. But we are going to be doing some activations in the store there. And then, it's a matter of making sure that the sort of league stays interesting, right? We've got great play-by-play and color casters. You get to come out and meet the pros. Like, for someone from Rancho Cucamonga, which is super fun to say, who can come down, 8 times a season. It's hard to keep you engaged, right? Because all the things we're doing as a team from week to week, like, you start to see them over and over again. It's no longer novel. You should save some of that LCS money and come join us in Detroit for our summer finals, sponsored by Rocket Mortgage, and be able to come out, or you can come back for Riff Rivals presented by Alienware and have that experience too. So, in terms of doing like really novel things like 1v1 competitions in the parking lot or things like that, those logistically become like just a huge issue for us week to week when you're still trying to make sure you're putting on a really good show, and a really good show for the people who are watching from home. So there is some balance there. It's harder for us to kind of do that stuff and not put a huge tax on our team.
Kind of going back a little bit to the ProView, I was wondering, because I know a lot of people were questioning if it was worth it. Did they want to spend $15 on it? And I think it's something, having used it myself, that you understand what it is, but it's more engaging when did we die?
It just it comes back. It's my internet. It just does it for 1 second and then it comes back.
So I was gonna say, having used it, it was something that like I appreciated more when I got my hands on it than I did hearing about it. Is there ever like any sort of promotional, like, for this one day only, everyone can use it, or would that destroy the platform from like a bandwidth perspective, or like is there something that you guys are planning to give people a chance to try it who might not be so sure? I mean, like I know I saw the promotional stuff, but having the control and feeling how easy it was and all that stuff.
Yeah, like
I
trials
appreciate it
or
a
something
lot.
like that.
Yeah, is there ever going to be a trial or like a super like $1 for this day kind of thing? Like try it out.
You know, I don't think there are immediate plans for that. I think it's a lot of being able to see the product as opposed to use the product. But I understand your point that it does feel a lot better when you can actually move the streams around yourself and kind of click through and set it up to watch the way you want to watch. You know, I think it's kind of a wait and see thing in terms of that product, as to like sort of how popular it is, like, you know, kind of what the adoption rate looks like. And there may be a world where, you know, later in the season they want to do some stuff like that. But I think as we're kind of ramping into it, it's just sort of out there. So I mean, you know, Mark, you'll see it on broadcast.
Yep.
You know, there's I think there's some codes going out to some content creators and some press folks, including Mr. Gafford, who can I think also help kind of preview it for people.
Yeah, I think I'm doing a review on stream tomorrow. I need to double check, but I think I'm getting a code tomorrow, so hopefully people can check that out if they're more interested.
Really, I got a big question here. Is Travis still press, or is he content creator, or is he a personality? What is this guy?
Man, I have no idea.
Can we? I want an official.
If
league
anyone
ruling
knows,
on
I
what
would
the
love
hell-
if they could tell me, because I have no idea.
It's like he just changes his hat depending on where he wants to go. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
true.
well, we don't like press in here. He's like, I'm not press, I'm a content creator. That's like, oh, all right, well, only content creators can be here, but press isn't allowed. He's like, you know, it's just.
Well, there's no place where press are. Yeah, I'm happy to go. I find that there's no place where press can go where content. My point is, I'm going to be everywhere.
Yep, we can't stop you.
Any other thoughts on this call, Panda?
I did just want to add on to the end that if anyone in the chat is kind of on the fence about whether or not they want to jump on Pro, I think this split would be the great time to just sort of dive in and try it, because like Mark said, it really is a total game changer when you have it in your hands. It looked kind of iffy on some of the promotional materials, but once you start using it and you know, maybe you can even open up the mainstream on one monitor and have the ProView stuff on the other monitor, it really kind of changes the way you view the game. And just as a fan and someone who's been watching Pro League since season 2, it is a true game changer.
Yeah, I think
also
the way you can use it is very different. Like some people want to watch someone's perspective the entire time. I don't really like doing that, but what I really enjoy doing is instead of watching the LCS replays, which are great, I like going to like the person who I think was really important in that play and watching it from their perspective. And it's so funny when like Turtle teleports in a team fight and I see that live, and then I get to go and like go back to his perspective and watch him do that shit. It's like that's by far my favorite use of it is watching a play, like kind of using it as a replay from someone's perspective.
Nice.
Anyways, that's my shell. That's my sellout.
Thank you.
I get $0 for that.
Yeah, thanks. We're all selling lots of Pro Views right now.
Check your bank account, Mark.
Thanks, Panda.
No problem. Thank you guys so much.
Yep. Hey, I have a question for Greeley before. I don't know, unless Mark, you feel like there's a call that's coming in for this, but what's the story behind the Rocket Mortgage finals? Did that come in through like the 100T relationship with Gilbert, or what's the backstory there?
So we started talking to the Rocket Mortgage Fund. I'm going to put this stuff down. I'm all down the joke. Feels like it fell flat for me.
I enjoyed it.
We started talking.
Twitch chat had your back.
Thanks, Twitch chat. That's the same Twitch chat that when we did the April Fool's thing asked who's the old bald fat guy with Mark. So I feel like that's just retribution. We started talking to the Detroit Sports Commission about what it would look like to bring an esports event to Detroit, and the Rocket Mortgage folks, who obviously are well situated in Detroit, kind of hopped in to the conversation and really helped kind of bring it along. It obviously didn't hurt that the Rocket Mortgage folks were familiar with League because of their relationship with 100 Thieves and the great work that they do there. So it made the discussions a lot easier. You get to skip all of the, what's an esport, what's League of Legends. You kind of go right into the heart of the conversation.
Right. Okay, so that's cool. So it wasn't necessarily like it just was coincidental almost. I mean, they obviously knew, but it wasn't something where, because I assume that the Oracle Arena thing was somewhat because Warriors were kind of related with you guys.
I mean, that certainly helped that conversation as well. It's a great arena. It was close to us. Like, it kind of hit a lot of the marks we were looking for last summer as we were scaling up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, you want to go?
All right,
next
you ready
one?
for the next caller?
Yeah. I'm wondering, Parth joined one of the rooms. I'm wondering if he's going to come back. Very, very interested. Jazzy Jazz is here. Jazzy Jazz, where are you calling from?
Dallas, Texas. Travis, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Hey, man, living the dream.
What do you want to talk about on the show tonight? Are you going to ask why no Texas event?
Yeah, dude, come on. There's a lot of League fans here, Chris. We're waiting, but hopefully I'll figure that out soon. No, I'm asking about actually LEC versus LCS. So my take was that historically, it's always seen that the LCS did a better job around marketing their players, their league, just around overall monetization. But ever since EU LCS rebranded to LEC, it seems like they've kind of overtaken the LCS. They seem to have more sponsors joining the show. They also seem to engage more with their sponsors. I kind of listed like how they do car commercials with their casters and stuff like that. And so I guess why has that been the case? Why has the LEC been so successful after the rebrand around just overall production and marketing their league? And why is the LCS falling short?
The LEC team is great. We work a lot with those folks, and they're working hard, and they're they had the whole graphics refresh. The car commercials were super cool. The Dracos rap battles with that other kid with the glasses, like, they were great. I think that LEC made huge strides last split. Their sponsorship came online. Other than NA greater than EU, I have nothing bad to say about LEC. At the same time, I think that the gap between LEC and LCS is overblown in terms of production quality. We hadn't done a graphics refresh in, I think, like 2 years. So we just did one for this split, which I think looks great. So when you're sitting on the same graphics package for 2 years, and a league comes out with a new one, right? LEC comes out with a new one. We're still sitting on the same one. It looks like, all right, well, LCS isn't trying, LEC is. Their sponsorship came online. We brought on a full-time North American BD guy in October. So you're like now starting to kind of see the fruits of his efforts, and you'll see a lot more announcements coming. There's a lot of stuff in the works, which is exciting. So they had a 6-7 month head start on sponsorship, so you start to see that stuff come out. Their content was fun and memey, and the Kia car commercial was super high quality. Like, I don't think that, like, it's tough, right? Because our team that's working 6 days a week and kind of putting everything into a broadcast that's still really good, still drawing more viewers week over week than it did the year before and the year before that. When they get home on a Sunday night and they're exhausted and they open Reddit and like there's a bunch of threads that say like the LEC is great and the LCS is trash, like, that hurts because our broadcast is still really good. I think you're going to start to see, between the graphics package now and a bunch more stuff that's coming and some announcements that you'll hear soon, we'll start to close that perception gap. But ultimately, I have faith that our teams are going to go to Worlds and crap all over EU and right the ship.
So,
Yeah,
sort
I
of
mean,
following. Go ahead, Jazzy.
Sorry. I was just say, I don't think when those threads pop up, it's necessarily trying to kind of disparage the LCS, but I think for a lot of North American fans, I think the LCS started off as a really high point, and marketing was really good. We had huge player personalities, and it looked like all good. And then when the EU LCS kind of rebranded to LEC, it seems kind of they've left us on the wayside in terms of just how they market their show. And I'm just, I guess, again, I'm not trying to disparage what y'all are doing. Y'all are putting on a great show, but it's kind of just trying to understand why that gap suddenly exists when it's for so long the LCS has kind of was surpassing LEC.
Yeah, I mean, look, we lived in a world where both leagues were like relatively stagnant, and then they did a bunch of stuff before we did, and they kind of, that shoots up. I think that you're going to see. I think you're going to see more coming from us in the coming months, and like I said, I hope that perception gap starts to close. I know you're not. I mean, that's the fun thing about the community, right? Even when you go and read stuff on Reddit that's like, I mean, blatantly trashing stuff that we do, like most of it doesn't actually come from like a mean-spirited place. It comes from the fact that we have a really large and engaged fan base that like wants to see everything done well and wants to see high quality and wants to like really be sort of proud of the thing that they love, and they hold us to a high standard. So like you kind of take that all in, right? It is a fuel for us, and when you get those threads that are, talk about how good ProView is, or talk about how, how cool the new champ select is, like those are nice high points for us.
So just a couple of things people are pointing out in chat. Diego243 says, why is he talking about the start of spring split being overblown? Did he forget that we had no hype videos promoting LCS? I think he's talking about summer.
Yeah, I mean, look, I did not forget. So going into summer, like we never want to fall into a world where like everything is just sort of a cookie cutter. So that like a week before the season starts, you get a hype video, and 3 days out you get a bunch of stills on Twitter, and the day before you get the weekend hype video. We're trying to find ways to kind of surprise and delight. One of the things we had coming into summer, especially because we went first, was ProView and Team Pass and kind of the high we got from that. So you'll see a bunch of promotional stuff around ProView, cool stuff like the video they did with Double Lift. We've got a bunch of sort of other stuff coming, but we were the first one out. We just decided not to go with the big hype video this year.
And then Lazink says, I'm hearing, or he says, sorry, but I'm hearing Commissioner speak. When the LCS has a year before the LCS with franchising, well, I'll make it a little nicer. Why is it that we saw, why is it that LEC, who franchised a year later, seemed to have a stronger year coming out than LCS, which franchised like a year before?
Yeah, and it's exactly for that reason, right? I was hired at the start of 2017. We immediately jumped into the team had been doing some work before I got there, but like we jumped into building out franchising and the application process, and we got through the whole thing. We were, LPL was franchising at the same time, but we were sort of figuring it all out as we went. November 2017 hits, everyone signs their team agreements, and we have a league. And like at that point, we needed to kind of get the infrastructure in and get off the ground and get running. LEC had the year where we were kind of figuring out what franchising looked like and was supposed to be to get a bunch of pieces in place. So like, should the LCS have taken an extra year or started a year earlier building out that infrastructure? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like hindsight makes that super clear. But we didn't, and we kind of are where we are. So, the LEC's franchising agreements look a little bit different than ours, but like they certainly had the benefit of everything that we went through and kind of getting up and running, as in addition to the extra year of time to make sure that like their BD was ramped up, that they had a bunch of things in place that we didn't. So
two questions. One, can you just say that you're not affiliated with Clash so people understand that? Because
Twitch chat keeps asking about Clash, so if you could just say you have nothing to do with...
Yeah, I have nothing at all to do with Clash.
Okay. Second thing, do you think when franchising occurred in NA, it wasn't really presented as like rebrand? It was like an evolution, I guess you would say, like that it's a new business scene, but still the same product in a lot of ways to the viewer. Do you think it should have been sprayed with like a new fresh coat of paint to be like, bam, it's all new and cool. The way LEC, when they franchise, also kind of redeveloped the broadcast product as well.
Yeah, I mean, the success they had has been great. And they kind of built out, like, if we have other regions now that are looking at franchising, I hope that they can take the lessons that like we created in North America and that Europe built on and did better, and can do something even better than that. But there certainly would have been a benefit of unveiling 10 new teams several weeks after Jacob released them on his Twitter, but unveiling 10 new teams and having a glossy new package around it.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think, just to kind of expand on what Mark was saying, I think if you could go back in time, would you maybe not rename the LCS, but go through and be like, brand new LCS, and like have the broadcast package feel different and all that stuff, because it does feel like LEC really was able to like reset the clock on, and in a way that LCS wasn't able to this year.
Yes. I mean, there's like, with the benefit of hindsight, it's like easy to look at the successes that LEC had and say like, oh, the difference between what we did in North America and what they did in Europe is like they wrapped their league in a rebrand and changed everything coming out of the gate. It was really successful and they did a great job. And, in hindsight, if I could go back to the start of 2017, we would have folks who were working on that could have, rolled that out at the same time as we finished franchising.
Yeah.
But you learn, right? I mean, that's part of building a business.
Jazz, any other thoughts or questions?
No, I mean, that basically wraps it up. I hoped we see some new things come out of LCS, because I know I want it. A lot of the fans want it, so I'm looking forward to see what you guys do.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Thanks for calling in. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Have a good night.
Moving on to the next caller. As Mark goes down there, a couple more shout outs. Ribbon Shoe for the 13 months. My dog's called Jinx. Box Boy. Schleppard. Killing You Guy. Hey, I'm Rabid. Nemsic for 21 months. Holy moly. Ferks19 sent 500 bits. Bun Beat reset for 4. Julian LOL. Nephaloid for 4. And Hottie Gaming. Hey everyone, just a quick break from the show, because I have a little sponsored segment here that we're going to put in. It's actually me and Ovly, a guy named Courage, which you may know him. He just joined 100T recently. Anyway, we're all playing Brawl Stars. It's a bit of a sponsored segment for this show, and I'm putting it up on social. These type of sponsored things really help keep everything running, and actually the funds from them frequently go to new projects that I have that maybe don't have sponsors. So anyway, thanks so much to Brawl Stars for sponsoring this. Thanks everyone for watching it. It's about 2 minutes long. Hope you enjoy it. I'm just curious who's going to get star player.
Probably me. I'm going to swing around the right side.
We got number advantage now. Bears out.
Oh, yeah.
Drop the turret.
Yeah, easy.
I like
easy
this move.
win.
I was the star player.
Yeah, we're carrying you.
Courage.
Okay, we're carrying you.
I am
We're
so
basically
good at this
doing
game.
everything.
Holy moly. Nice.
Oh my god!
Oh!
And this one too, By default, right? We have more.
Oh, that's us. That's us.
I don't feel like I'm going to get star player. Oh, Ovly got star player?
That's me. That's
Hey,
right.
Courage.
Actually, not even kidding. No, she hard carried. Wait.
Boom. Straight on their thing. Straight on their thing.
I mean, their base has absolutely had better days. They got this one cornered.
Free.
That's it.
Once again, star player.
You know what? There's something wrong. There's something wrong with the calibration.
Oh, big
that's
numbers right now.
beautiful.
Big numbers right now. Big numbers right now. Come on.
Get him to me.
What percent?
No! That would have been so good. Oh, let's
Hey,
go.
nice.
No worries, I got it.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Who's star player? One more time.
I think that's 2 for Ovly, 2 for me. I'm trying to remember how many for Courage.
Nice.
Got him.
He's
Nice.
down.
Nice.
Stun plus my
I'll
long
body
range. I
block
love
for you.
that. Please just keep stunning everyone.
Another roll. Bye.
Oh my god, we're just wrecking their base right now.
Yeah.
And we win.
Boom.
Yo, that wasn't even close.
Oh, again.
Oh!
Yeah. I get the stun, then Travis does the range.
You know, it's very strategic. You just use the brute force. I think on another level. Thanks everyone for watching my Brawl Stars match. I taught Ovly a lot on her birthday. I'm glad I could carry her. It was a great birthday gift.
Jesus.
And we got Nikleos on the show right now. Nikleos, what do you want to talk about? Well, first off, where are you calling from?
Santa Clarita, California.
Wait, you've been on the show before and I've not said your name correctly, right?
Like every time, yeah. It's Nikleos.
It's wait.
Whatever.
Okay.
So you're calling from Santa Clarita. What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about how a lot of players complain about the season length generally being too long between events after the season starts. But once World happens, a lot of them complain about the break being too long, and they're just kind of sitting there doing nothing, or they have nothing to do because all they do is play League or they play other games, and they just run out of, like, they have no drive really during that break. So I was thinking, what are the ideas around like maybe shortening the amount of time it takes to do a split to 6 weeks and putting 3 games on every weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you have on each split an extra 3 weeks that you could put at the beginning or end to give the players a longer break after the year starts, between events.
All right, so this question is about the tale of two teams. So let's think about we'll think about Team Liquid. They started their season in January. They made it through to finals. They went to MSI. They came back with a fast turnaround and go through summer split. Now let's just kind of play it out. Like, they go to summer finals. They, maybe they win, maybe they lose. If they lose, they go to the gauntlet. Like, presumably they wind up at Worlds. And then at least 1 or 2 of those players probably wind up at All-Stars, right? So it's like really like the story of Double Lift. Like, that guy is going to play League of Legends from, depending how far they go at Worlds, assuming they make it there, from January to December. Like, and generally when we like talk about this internally, we used to always focus on Faker because he's kind of the obvious poster boy for it. That's grueling. Like, there's a couple of there's a week here and a week there between spring and MSI, and in some years MSI in summer, and then some of the better teams don't have to, like, if you're a higher seed, you may not have to go to Worlds play-in, so you get a couple weeks there. But a lot of those teams are using that time for boot camping anyway, right? C9 wasn't at MSI, but I think half their team was in Korea for the whole break boot camping. It's a really grueling schedule. On the flip side, like, imagine the team that doesn't make playoffs in either split. Their guys play from January until March, and then play from June until August. So they get half the year off. So at the end of the day, like, who are you solving the problem for, right? As fans, like, we have good shit to watch for the whole year. So you're not really solving for fans. It's hard to solve for the pros that are taking 6 months off and like are the ones complaining that like they wish they could get back to playing competitive games. And it's hard to solve for the teams that have to play for the whole year because there's so few of them globally. We've talked about a lot of different things, right? Like, I think the LEC is doing something great around Rift Rivals. Their teams are going to come back, and they built in a bye week. We in our schedule in LCS didn't have time for it based on when we were holding our summer finals, and we have a need in North America to try to avoid Labor Day. We haven't done it in the past, but when you hold an event on Labor Day, it's twice as expensive and half the people show up because it's a holiday. So we needed to do it beforehand, so we still had time to run the gauntlet. So like, those are great things, right? Kind of trying to build in those break weeks. We've talked about doing potentially a longer split, but using an NFL style schedule where like some teams get a bye week. It's easier to do with 12 teams than it is with 10, and we're not expanding. So at least right now, so it's hard to hit that. So then if you start to think like, all right, how do we deal with the players who have all that time off? Like, I've seen a narrow kind of floating around in chat. Those guys put together some kind of off-season in-house games that they were streaming for a while. Like, that's been pretty effective at making sure pros are getting some kind of competitive matches and aren't stuck grinding out solo queue. We've talked internally about ideas like fall ball, where you have some period of time for the teams not going to Worlds where they can like break into some of those in-houses and maybe do a league. But that stuff gets complicated with like pros who want to travel and actually take some time off, or teams that are skittish about their pros being in some kind of formal league and then kind of dealing with everything that comes around that. But it's stuff we talk through. but again, like you're trying to solve multiple problems at once, and that makes it hard. Like when you shorten the split and you add a longer break, the teams that aren't going to make playoffs, instead of having 6 months off, they wind up having like 7.5 months off or 8 months off. That actually feels worse for them. Although at the flip side, you solve the problem for you solve the Team Liquid and SKT problems.
Well, you don't need to make the break happen earlier. You can just create a larger gap between, say, like Rift Rivals in the second half of the split and MSI in the first half of the summer split. You can move those extra weeks there instead of putting it at the end, so that the break still stays the same amount. And then with the spring split, you could move that up to start maybe a little bit sooner, like kind of reschedule some of the other events around it, because if you shorten the splits, both of them, then you have 6 extra weeks of time to play with.
Yeah, I mean, you wind up like, when we plan our North American calendar, we still have to plan around the global calendar. Because it's, you can't go to the LPL with 16 teams who's already running games like 4 nights a week and ask them to condense their calendar even more than it is. So like you can't change the global calendar. So if we wound up just changing the calendar in NA, you wind up with big gaps where there's no LCS, but you still have LEC and LCK, and then the conversation turns into like, why aren't you just playing more games? So just add a third night and do a triple round robin and get the guys more stage time, or move to BO3s and get more competitive matches so that players are better trained for international events. Like there's a lot of I'm not disputing your point. Like I think it's a good one. It's just it's an equation with a lot of variables in it, and when you start to change one, like you have to worry about all the others.
Is there any hope in sight for either of the players though, for the double lifts of the world or the I don't know who to make fun of, the players that don't make it beyond to playoffs? Like it sounds like there's no solution that works for either of them, right?
There's a lot of conversations ongoing. Like I don't have something on a whiteboard that we're trying to execute on. It's easier to solve the problems for like the academy players who don't even have an option, right? They have a guaranteed 6 months off. It's easier to create some competitive stuff for them than it is to relieve some pressure on like the better teams and the star players. But there's a lot of conversations going on around the global calendar and what it looks like and how it all fits together, but nothing imminent.
So one of the things that got Mark and I in hot water 2 weeks ago was talking about if the bottom half of Europe is better than the bottom half of North America. I just saw in chat a second ago.
That's how we settle it.
So I saw somebody in chat a second ago talking about thrift rivals. So is there a world like that? Seems to be a solution, right? You can, after MSI, you give like the top teams a little bit longer of a break or whatever, and then you bring out the teams that didn't make it to playoffs, and they duke it out. And then we know.
Yeah.
What happens if our shit teams beat their shit teams? And so even though G2 beat TL, we know that overall, we're stronger.
100 Thieves beat Rogue.
If you stack rank the 20 teams, like our bottom teams are just above their bottom teams.
Yeah, we have a stronger league overall.
I will bring that back to the team.
Okay.
Make sure the thrift rivals is the term that you use.
Yeah.
It's really great.
That's what sells it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does seem though like that. Even if that's a ridiculous idea, some sort of situation like that where you can help give some of the top teams some time off while the longer team, or like the bottom teams, have to like struggle through to do something, or I don't know. It feels like there's got to be something there, because I got to tell you, I have a very good friend of mine who was talking about how burnt out he felt going into the first week of Summer Split, and that is not what you want to hear from the guy who you're putting 3 videos out promoting the start of LCS. That guy's burnt out going into his first week. So that's, I think, one of the things that I worry about. Yeah.
And it's the summer schedule coming out of MSI was really tight and really rough. We heard a lot about it from that particular player's general manager who had all sorts of thoughts about how early the season was starting and the bad position it was putting them in. And it's something that we're trying to work through. I think like when you create gaps, like the gap between MSI and the start of summer split, like there should be some break time built in there. But if we make the gap between MSI and the end of spring split longer, a lot of teams just fill that with boot camps. And like when you make the gap between summer split and worlds longer to try to give people a break, like they just fill those with boot camps too. So some of the solve isn't changing the schedule, but also working with our teams to make sure that like they're creating a system that's sustainable for the players. And like I know that, and I think it was Peter who talked about it at the end of last year, that he plays better when he can disengage from the game for a couple of days and like get the rest rather than burning out. I think that's an important thing for our schedule to allow players to do, but we have to work with teams to make sure they're also giving players that space. Like I know when TL came back, they gave the guys a couple of days off to try to beat jet lag and refresh, but getting four days off after a month in Vietnam and Taiwan and coming back and trying to get in shape to get on stage in week one, it's a tall order.
Yeah.
Could Riot do anything to like artificially restrict the teams from scheduling scrims in that first week so that they have to give their players the time off?
Could we? I'm trying to think through I'm
like
sure I could write a rule that just restricts it. It's hard to enforce, especially if you have teams that are like, all right, well, it's like the same way we used to get around it in high school athletics. Like you weren't allowed to practice before a certain date, so the players would organize it and we would do it ourselves.
Yeah, OTAs basically.
Yeah,
right, but
and there was always
you can't be
pressure.
responsible for like what the team. You're not. I think you're trying to solve the problem for both ends, but the teams are also responsible to themselves. Like if the players elect to do that, that's different than you saying like, we would highly suggest / rule that you don't do this, and maybe impose like a fine or something if the teams make the players do that, but they can still elect. Like they still elect to play solo queue every day. Right?
I agree. If you want to reply to that, and then we'll probably move on to the next caller.
Yeah, there's it's how you really define being forced to. Like I didn't go to 2-a-day baseball practices in high school without a coach because I wanted to. I went because the rest of my team went, and like if you don't show up, you're the asshole. I don't want to create a world where you have like a veteran player saying, hey guys, we're not allowed to practice with the coach, but we're all going to get together and we're going to like play as 5 together to start to, continue to build teamwork and, create a scenario where players don't feel like they have a choice and the star player's doing it because the org tells them to. Like, I recognize I'm pretty far down a negative rabbit hole, but like those are the things we worry about, that when we put up barriers, like all we're doing is kind of creating this world people are going around them. And I think we need a more holistic solve for this in working with teams to kind of carve schedules out rather than the league making rules and finding people and kind of setting up that prohibition.
And the other thing I'd throw in here, because I think it's easier for me to say this, is like it's also on the players to fix their own problems a little bit. So they're supposed to have a player representation, the association. Yeah. So like, it's if they really need to make these changes, like they need to start pushing back on their own as well, because they're the ones who are most affected by it. So. I don't want to say like, it's the player's fault necessarily, but like, if this is something that's killing Doublelift and killing Faker and killing Rookie and the Shy and all of them, like, they gotta start figuring out how to help themselves a little bit.
Hey, Nick, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it, and thank you for responding to questions.
Yeah, man.
We've got
Dude, my internet's going crazy. Do I sound like a robot sometimes?
Mine goes crazy too. Looks like we got one more caller coming in just a second. I'm gonna give. Oh, I think Mark's box somehow got moved over. I don't know what's going on there. Looks like we got. Wait, did I lose
Say it.
Burks.
Dr. Jiggy.
Oh yeah. Well, yes. That he's here now. I was shouting out other people. Dr. Jiggy.
Oh.
Dr. Jiggy, where are you calling from?
Denver, Colorado.
Oh wow, you're loud. Okay, I'm gonna turn you down. Denver, Colorado. Sounds like an amazing place to hold an LCS finals. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So my question was, is there a plan for geolocation across the LCS like there is in Overwatch? The way that like Clutch Gaming is so completely submersed themselves into the city of Houston and Texas in general, it seems like it's been phenomenal for the org, and that fans can connect more with them and feel more pride in liking them because of that.
I think you mean Philadelphia. I heard they've submerged themselves in Philadelphia. Anyway,
now.
Go. Creeley, any thoughts on this?
Well, I'll point out first that Sherman is from Texas and is Clutch Gaming, as a result of their connection to Houston. So I'm going to give you the generic answer because I don't have a better one. We're spending a lot of times talking to the teams around what regionalization could look like, whether it's whether it's nothing, which I doubt will kind of be the long term. Whether it's soft geolocation where we associate teams with regions, but they continue to play in a central studio, or whether it's something closer to the current Overwatch model where they're in city. The issue with going to a full regional model, and like there's obviously a lot of different ways to do it. Or you could do like a WWE traveling road show that's in Houston one week and New York the next week, and kind of moves around, or kind of the true home and away conventional sports system. But if you move to that system where TL is in DC and they're hosting TSM one weekend, you wind up going to a different format, which is fine. In that system, you're probably in like a best of 3 or best of 5. Maybe they're playing all of their games for the year kind of on back-to-back days, but you're relying on those two teams to sell that arena out, which is probably bigger than the current LCS arena, and do it multiple times in a year. We're not so sure, and I'm not sure our teams are confident that two teams playing across the country on a single day, like 2 teams in 5 different cities, can kind of create the kind of economics you need to stand up all of those studios across the country. But we're continuing to look through it. The benefit of LCS franchising is a bunch of NBA teams. Those NBA teams have a pretty good, and other conventional sports teams, but the NBA folks are pretty interested in this. They have a lot of models in terms of how arenas work and merch can work and pouring rights and parking and all the other stuff. And as you try to figure out whether you can build out a sustainable long-term regionalized business model. So we're working on it, but I don't have anything more specific to offer.
But Greeley, Overwatch League is going to do all this next year. Why can't LCS? Never mind. I won't force you to answer that question. But I'm super fascinated to see how that goes. Dr. Jiggy, do you have other follow-up questions on geolocation?
No, I think he answered that perfectly. Thank you very much.
That's so quick and easy. So, Greeley, do you have teams that are pushing for it, or is there interest internally?
I think there's teams that have an interest in exploring it. So like there aren't teams that are like, hey, we've got an arena, like how soon can we get 9 LCS games in every weekend? But there are folks who have have space, have sponsors, have folks in the org who can run arenas, and they want to spend a lot of time both watching what Overwatch is doing and having conversations with those teams to understand like what's going well and what's not, and also building out our own models to figure out like, hey, is there a system where we could have 2 arenas instead of just the one in West LA, or we could have 4 arenas and we move between them and it spreads League of Legends out to more people. And how do you kind of decide where you go? Like the logistics at the end of the day are easy. There are people who are very good at logistical work, and you hire them and they make all of the travel and all the other things happen. Figuring out how to put on really good broadcasts from multiple locations and make sure that fans are getting a great experience and that fans are showing up, like it's a different beast.
So all right,
go ahead, Mark.
Were you gonna ask a serious question? Because I wasn't.
Yeah, I was. So a lot of this we're talking about is about actually having like physical locations or teams building a stadium. I gotta say, like, I was a huge skeptic of the Overwatch League model when they came out, where it's like,
Soft
okay, so
geolocation.
yeah,
Or
where
as you
all
were
these
saying, I
guys
think.
are based in Burbank, and you're like, okay, so they're like the London team or the New York team, but they're only playing in Burbank. But it seemed like, I guess I don't have any hard evidence on this, but from just looking at it, it felt as though people really adopted that and rallied around it, and it still somehow magically worked. Do you think there's a world where, even if we're potentially years out from something where you have arenas in different cities, that you do soft geolocate?
Yeah, that's a model we talk about a lot more because there's two reasons you regionalize. One is to unlock local revenue. Like when you look at the Yankees, like they have some national sponsors, but when you walk around Yankee Stadium, it's like the local Toyota dealer, the local, WB Mason. Like there's a lot of local sponsorships that really keep conventional sports afloat. And the other is fandom, right? I'm a Yankee fan and a Giants fan because I grew up in northern New Jersey, and like that's just how you gravitate. It was easier, I think, for Overwatch to hit the fandom model because they required new brands for everyone coming in. So like no one had ever heard of the Fuel or the Excelsior or the Fusion, the rest of the teams. So when you associate them with a region, right, it all makes a lot of sense. It's harder for me to take like Cloud9 and throw a region in front of them. Right now they're the San Francisco Cloud9 or the New York CLG or the Washington DC Team Liquid. I don't know that we would necessarily try to do something as like hard tied as that, but I could see a world where we tell Team Liquid, all right, you have the DC area, and you can do a bunch of fan activations there, and like we'll carve out some broadcast time for local activations or local sponsors, and anyone watching from the greater DC metro area gets served a Team Liquid local ad, and you can kind of hit those markets. Like that's all stuff I think is interesting and can bring fans a lot of value.
All right, here's the fun question. Assign each team right now to a city. What speaks to you for each team?
All right. So you send 100 Thieves somewhere in the Midwest, like Detroit or Cleveland, like just based on the Dan Gilbert relationship. You put the FlyQuest into Chicago or Milwaukee based on the Bucks. You put CLG into New York based on Madison Square Garden. You put Golden Guardians up in San Francisco because of the basketball team. You put Clutch into Houston. So that one's easy.
Philadelphia.
You run into problems around like TSM and Cloud9. I think if you don't make like LA kind of a Switzerland, you probably put one of those teams in LA and send one of them to New York. Optic gets the Dallas area based on their ownership groups and their sort of other connections.
You got Echo Fox left.
Yep, Echo Fox, like you either leave in LA, like Rick is from Toronto. You could potentially put Echo Fox into Toronto. Now you have a Canadian team. You could also put them into Miami. I think kind of any of those would work for Echo Fox.
Team Liquid?
TL you put into DC probably, or potentially Florida, just based on their ownership group. They're also a candidate, I guess, to leave in LA. Is that everybody?
I think so. I feel like Chat would call it out. Chat, are we forgetting anybody?
You didn't give Boston a team? What the fuck? Who am I supposed to cheer for?
Fuck Boston.
Come on, man.
Mark,
you'll just continue cheering for whoever gives you the most gear.
Yeah, of course. But at least if I can rep it in my own where I go home.
Wait, you're in a Cloud9 chair now?
I'm in a Cloud9 chair right now, yes.
All right, fine. Jack can go to Boston. It's closer to London anyway.
There we go.
Would you put TSM in? Would you ever do like two teams in a city? Just because like they're like TSM with the whole Bay Life thing. I don't know what it was like growing
Well, I
up
think
in
the
New
Bay
York
Life thing is dead. But I think the stronger argument would be LA. You could probably have two LA teams.
Well, sure. Okay.
Two in New York too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. That's a good question, Mark. I'm glad you asked that.
Oh yeah, C9 won the Boston Major in CS:GO. That's right. It's a good place for them. There you go, Mark. You got your Boston team.
I like C9. I'll take it.
Dr. Jiggy, he says from a C9 chair. Dr. Jiggy, is there any final thoughts on this? Or anything you want to say on the way out?
No, I think that like what you were saying earlier about how you can kind of still have them all be in the same place if you needed to, but have them be branded with the other cities and things like that. I think that you really, I think that that's a very good option or idea as well. And that's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks, dude.
The Los Angeles TSM of Anaheim, says L Blunt Dealer. An Angels fan for sure. All right, I think that's wrapping up the show. Mark, do you have anything you want to shout out? Any plugs?
I think there's a couple things, but I can't talk about them yet.
Really? What is it?
I think so.
Is it offline stuff?
I don't know. Some of it's offline stuff, some of it's personal stuff.
Is it stuff that you haven't told me?
I don't remember what I tell you, to be honest.
You better tell me the
Don't think I
personal
told you
stuff.
yet. It's not
I was.
personal. It's like
do you want to talk? We were going to talk about your wine situation from this past weekend.
Oh, I did go. I mean, that should have been in the intro, but whatever. I went. I went to Paso Robles wine country. It's officially wine country. I learned in 2007. The AVA, I think it's called, decided they were wine country, and I got really drunk, day drinking, passed out. It was like probably a 12-hour day, all things considered, with how much I was awake. It was great. I would recommend it, and now I can answer very few questions about wine as opposed to 0 questions about wine.
Commissioner Greeley, have you been to Paso Robles? Is that what it's called?
I have not. I
Okay.
do my wine drinking at home.
Okay. Yeah. Do you get to go anywhere now that you have kids?
Yes, but they're all like kid-friendly
Disneyland?
trips.
Are you a white wine drinker?
No, I've always been a California Cabernet guy. I'm very generic.
Yeah.
You should go to Paso Robles then, 'cause that's what they're known for.
All right.
They got a lot of them.
I really like Malbecs. Recently, becoming more a fan of Australian wines as well. That's a recent thing for me. Anyway, Commissioner Greeley, do you have anything that you want to shout out at the end of this?
There's a great picture of Mark Z wearing like some kind of onesie jumper and a offline house picture. I got to start my day with that, so that's great. Someone in
Where's
Twitch chat
that?
said that you guys just
It's on
dropped
Twitter.
some merch. Did you guys just drop some merch, Mark?
Yeah, we did. Offline TV did just drop some merch.
You want to plug your merch?
How's Commissioner Greeley helping you do this?
You keep going.
Speaking of dropping new merch, the LCS did. You can find that merch at lcsmerch.com. We'll have a bunch of new drops coming out throughout the split. Lots of cool shit coming. Cloud9 has a really cool pride pin. All of the proceeds for that go to the Trevor Project. I think you can find that on Cloud9's Twitter. So go buy some Cloud9 rainbow pride pins and support a really good charity.
You guys have a
buy
shirt.
ProView, buy Team Pass. Yeah, there's a. Oh, thank you for reminding me. See, we're helping each other, Travis.
No one's helped me yet, but sure.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Buy
I got a
Alienware
free-
computers and use Travis's code.
Yeah, Travis Tedoff. There. That's the commissioner of the LCS telling you to use my code. Now again, I was worried about the monetization issues with the LCS. I'm still a little worried considering he's promoting other people's codes over his own, but I'll take it.
The shirt Travis mentioned, by the way, is a Pridelytics esports shirt. All the proceeds from that also go to the Trevor Project. You can find that at pridelytics.com. I'm going to paste that right into the chat. Team
My
Pass
girlfriend liked
Super-
that shirt.
Yeah.
I got one from Riot. It's pretty comfy.
Team Pass is dope. If you tried it with ProView on day one and it didn't work, I was told by that team that is fixed. So you can go watch the VODs through ProView. It'll work for Team Pass. I'm excited for all the cool stuff that comes with Team Pass. Lots of cool shit coming. Watch LCS. Watch more Travis Gafford stuff. Watch Mark Z when he casts. Academy's hype Friday nights. And we're also putting Academy games last game of every Sunday, so you can catch those somewhere around 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, and sometime in the middle of the night in Europe.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Go ahead, Mark.
No, nothing. Just finish. Yeah.
Great. Glad you provided that. I believe tomorrow, probably around 3:30 or so, I will be doing a review of ProView on stream unless something weird happens. But either way, I'll be online doing something at that time. So I'm trying to stream a little bit more on Twitch. And then afterwards, I'm going to play a game with Ovely that is not League of Legends, but is not a competitor. So I don't feel bad saying it in front of Commissioner Greeley. Anyway, Mark, what happened? What's going on? Anyway, that's the show, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks to Alien for sponsoring. Thank you to Commissioner Greeley and Sherman for coming on. Thank you to everyone who threw a sub my way, and catch you next week.